Hi friends! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Mimi and today I am going over my 2025 reading goals slash reading challenges. I am participating in 3-year-long reading challenge this year, and in addition to that, I have my own personal set of 25 reading goals that I want to accomplish by the end of 2025. So without any much rambling, yapping, stray tangents, I'm gonna head right into them and we're gonna see how well I did for the first quarter and April. So for the first third of 2025, that's not a real word, but whatever a third of a year is, I think that's it. I think the phrase is how I'm doing. I think the phrase is to check in on my accomplishments and my progress for the reading challenges or reading goals for the first third of the year. There. That wasn't so hard, was it? It was pretty hard. It was pretty hard, but I'm just gonna get right into the video. Let's see how well I did. So the first reading challenge is the Classic 6, and I only recently heard about this reading challenge, but I thought it was the perfect reading challenge for me as someone who did not grow up reading a lot of classics. Now, I have only read one classic for the first third of the year, and it is Murder on the Orient Express. However, I do have a good list of books that are great contenders for this Classic 6 reading challenge, and some of which are The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird, Fahrenheit 451, The Great Gatsby, and I think I'm missing one. Animal Farm. I think that makes 6 classics for the Classic 6. So the next reading challenge on my list is the 2025 Buzzword Cover Challenge, and I'm taking this slow. I'm being relaxed. I'm just cruising along, and as I read, if any of these books fall into any of these categories, I add it in. I don't think I'm going to be actively picking out books that fit the cover until maybe November or December when I'm like close to the deadline, because honestly, I think I'm doing a pretty good job so far without even specifically picking the book to match the prompt. I do want to know I am doing it out of order. I don't restrict it to being only that particular month that I'm reading in. I don't restrict it by the month. It's a free-for-all. Whatever books I read across the whole year can satisfy any of these prompts. And let's dive right in to see what my current progress is for this reading challenge. Going left to right, the very first prompt I was able to fulfill was pattern, and I fulfilled it with the vanishing half. Moving right along, we have Skyline, which was fulfilled by the winners. For the book prompt, I was able to satisfy it with book lovers. And if you guys zoom in on their hands, they are in fact holding a book. And also the title has the word book in it. So technically, it's one-to-one. It's actually existing on the cover. I don't know why I have to feel the need to justify myself when they're literally holding a book. Anyways, let's move on to the next prompt, which is animals, and I fulfilled it with the book What You Are Looking For Is in the Library. And the next prompt that was crossed off is celestial, and I crossed this off with I Who Have Never Known Men. As for transportation, we have Murder on the Orient Express. And as for foliage, I actually had a lot of different options here. However, I'm going to go with Filthy Rich Vampires. And finally, the last prompt I was able to cross off is monochromatic. And I think this is monochromatic. Gone Girl. It's black and white with a little bit of red, but for the most part, the cover is black. So I think it's monochromatic, right? Let me know down in the comment section if it isn't, and I should find a book. But for now, that is where I'm at for the 2025 Buzzword Cover Challenge. I think I'm doing pretty good. Honestly, I think this is the halfway point of the challenge so far. Like, I covered up about half of the challenge. So I think my current process and how I'm tackling this reading challenge is going easy, breezy, beautiful. I don't need to change it up. I don't need to worry too much about it. And let's move on to the diversity book bingo. So I'm going to dive right into this reading challenge with the very first one up being a prompt from someone else's list. And I had to go with The Winners by Fredrik. This was originally on Ellen's list for her book club. Yeah, for her book club. So I thought it's perfect. It's her very own personal book bingo. And I had to use one of her prompts with one of her books from one of her lists. That was all over the place, but you get what I'm trying to say. For the book The Winners, I was able to also cross off LGBTQ representation along with its location being in Europe. Moving on to new country, I crossed it off with Neurodiversity, The Birth of an Idea by Judy Singer. Judy Singer is an Australian author, and I think she is the first Australian author I have ever read. So I was able to tackle this prompt very, very early on in the year. And in addition to this, I was able to cross off neurodivergent representation. For the secondhand prompt, I went with Murder on the Orient Express because it's technically my husband's original copy, and I have since then inherited it. So it is a secondhand copy. In addition to this, the book takes place in Europe. Moving right along, we have the prompt Migration, and for that, I went with The Bride Test. This is technically located in the United States and Vietnam, and it's actually a story about a Vietnamese person immigrating to America, which is why I felt like it fit with the prompt Migration. And on top of that, it has neurodivergent representation from the author herself and the characters that she depicts in her book. Next up is a recommended book, and I had to go with Pure Nessie because I was recommended this book by so many different people, especially Ellen. And since given this as an Ellen Made Book Club original book challenge, I had to go with Pure Nessie. And I believe this book falls under the region of Europe. The next prompt was an easy one for me, and it is a 5-star read. I crossed it off in early January with Anxious People by Fredrik, one of my all-time favorite literary authors ever. I'm obsessed with his work, and this book was located in Europe. Moving right on to a genre that is outside my comfort zone, I went with The Woman by Kristen Hanna. This book is a work of historical fiction, and while I read a lot of historical fiction in manhwa and mangas, I don't read about historical fiction that's relevant in a major world movement. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like this book was during the Vietnam War, at the height of Vietnam War, and it just didn't seem like the kind of book that I have ever dabbled into. And spoiler alert, I did really enjoy The Woman. The Woman had representation of disability, with its location being both in North America and Asia. The next prompt is prize winner, and I went with The Vanishing Half. This won the Goodreads Choice Award, and it satisfies North America along with minority in terms of representation. Next up is a comfort read, and I picked Villains Are Destined to Die. This is honestly my all-time favorite manhwa with its intricacy in the story. So comfort read, I already know it's going to be a 5-star read throughout, and it's something that I picked up to just get me back into the vibes and moods of reading. Next up is a library book, and honestly, many of my books are library books, so we can throw anything and everything in there, honestly, genuinely. But for this, I'm just gonna go with A Rain of Rose. I just randomly picked one out on top of my head, and that's what I went with. So that's what I'm going with. As for favorite author, I did recently read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Emily Henry, you are one of my queens in terms of staple romance writers, because Book Lovers got me out of a reading slump, y'all. She's definitely my favorite author. That's it. That's all I can say. And finally, we have For Another Reading Event. So I believe this is a book that I read for a different reading challenge. And I'm going to go with I Who Have Never Known Men. I used the cover of I Who Have Never Known Men in the 2025 Buzzword Reading Challenge. And with that, as you guys can see on the screen, I have finally hit bingo at the first third of the year. I'm so proud of myself. At the bottom row, we see a beautiful bingo, and I cannot wait till I black out the board. Hopefully, I black out the board sometime soon. I have a lot of ideas trickling in. I'm hoping to get majority of the board done before October, because once October hits, I'm gonna go full in to try to finish the board as fast as possible. But for now, you guys can see my progress on the side, whichever side I'm doing my editing on. And let's move on to my 2025 reading goals and check in on how I'm doing with that area. So for my 2025 goal, let's just jump right into it. The first one up is to read a book with BIPOC representation. And for that, I went with The Vanishing Half. Then another one I wanted to cross off this year is to read more mysteries and thrillers, specifically 3. And by the first third of the year, I have definitely done so with The Naturals, Gone Girl, and Home is Where the Bodies Are / Murder on the Orient Express. I think I have read 4 mystery thrillers so far this year. So I'm doing pretty good in that department. In addition to that, I also wanted to complete some more series, specifically 3, and I went with the Beartown trilogy, the Sacred Stones trilogy, and I DNF'd some series along the way as well, so I'm also going to count those. Moving right along, we have neurodivergent representation. Honestly, if you guys notice a trend, my 2025 reading goal is kind of on par with the diversity book bingo. So I think next year I'm just gonna go with the diversity book bingo and my goals will be something different. I don't know, I haven't fully decided yet. But what was I talking about? Neurodivergent representation. And I went with neurodiversity, the birth of an idea. However, I think I read a lot of different books this year with neurodivergent representation. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And I could probably interchange a couple books here and there, but just neurodiversity, the birth of an idea. That title is just neurodiversity representation itself. Moving right along, we have a classic book. And as you guys already know, I have only read one classic this year, and it is Murder on the Orient Express. For LGBTQIA representation, I did read a couple of books this year with such representation, and I'm going to go with one that I haven't mentioned already from the previous reading challenge, and it is going to be My Dear Agent. Then for a book with over 500 plus pages, I went with The Winners. I think I read a couple of books this year so far that's over 500 pages, which is bonkers to me. I think I read most of them on a Kindle, so I didn't actually know how big they truly were. As for to read every day for an entire month, there's only been 1 month in the first 4 months of the year that I have read every single day on for, and it was January. I literally completed this goal, and then for the rest of the year that we are at so far, I just couldn't accomplish this goal. So kind of bummed, but it's okay. We can just move on. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Sometimes we just need to have a lull, and 2025 is just not my year. Then I had the goal of reading outside of my house, and on January 16th, I read at a coffee shop. And unfortunately, that is the only day that I can actually think that I went out of my way to sit down somewhere and read that's not inside of my house. It's a problem. It's a problem that I'm gonna try to fix, especially now that we're going over these reading challenge. I feel like I did them early on in the year and then I just forget about them, which is why I like to tack in like 3 or 4 or 5 different books instead of just the one, because then we have situations like this. So all I'm trying to say is that I need to go out and read outside a little bit more. The one goal, however, that I am knocking out of the park is to buddy read more this year, and I cannot stress this enough. I am buddy reading so far every single month of the year so far, including May, and I have a buddy read lined up for June as well. So I am over the moon. You guys don't understand. I am loving buddy reading. I am loving the interactions I have with all these different people, all of these different booktubers. It has been a blast to be able to share my thoughts, my reaction when you flip to a certain page and an event happened and you're just like, mind blown. So yeah, I think I'm doing pretty good in terms of the general buddy read more, buddy read with more friends. So in general, I think I'm doing pretty well in terms of this goal. And then finally, we have DNF more. There's no concrete measurements as to how many books I need to DNF given a specific amount of time, but it was just the general feeling that I need to DNF more. And I am proud of myself, even though I've only DNF'd one book so far this year, and it was Deep End. I think I have a whole video about it, so you guys can listen to my yaps about that. However, Deep End was just not it for me. And I'm so happy that I DNF'd it, because knowing me, last year, because Ali Hazelwood is one of my god tiers romance reader, no, god tier romance writer, I would have trudged through the whole book, dealt with it, hated it, and gave it 1 star. Like honestly, that's what I would have done. So I'm happy that I DNF'd Deep End. And actually, I soft DNF City of Bones pretty recently. It's a soft DNF. I feel like I'm just not in the mood and vibes for it, so I put it down. And I'm proud of myself for that. And I think with all of this, you guys can kind of see on the screen how I'm doing with my reading goal. Oh, wait, I think I forgot one, which is Emily Henry's Backlog. And for that, I fulfilled it with Book Lovers. Technically her backlog, but also I haven't decided if I wanted to include every single book of a person's backlog or just one. So I think right now I'm gonna go with one, because some authors, y'all write a lot. So I'm just gonna go with one for now, like such as Fredrik Backman. I know Fredrik Backman has a lot of books I haven't read, so I'm just gonna go with one. And I read Book Lovers pretty recently, so I think that means I hit bingo. I don't know for sure. I'm going off the top of my head for this one. So editing Mimi can say nope or yes. If you guys watch Squid Game, nope or yes. Yeah, I think that about wraps up this video. This slightly structured, but also it took me way too long to go through all the categories. I don't know what I was rambling about, so I think I'm gonna end up cutting out a couple of parts. So that basically wraps up my reading challenge updates for y'all. Let me know down in the comment section if you are participating in any reading challenges, and if you are, what are they? I want to know. I'm nosy. Are you a monthly reading challenge kind of person, or are you a year-long reading challenge kind of person? Because I want to do month-long reading challenge, but it's just so hard, especially when I don't have time to prep for it. Like, I need to know 3 months in advance. I am a type A girly through and through, and I'm rambling again. So I'm gonna zip up my mouth and say thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for sticking around with me. I really appreciate you, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.